Hello everyone, welcome to session 3 of module 6, introducing a tool into an organization. In this session we will learn about different factors that you need to consider before introducing a tool into an organization. So we'll learn about main principles of introducing the tool. Then we'll see what are the goals of pilot project or proof of concept for tool evaluations. And then we'll see various success factors when you introduce a tool into an organization. So let's get started. Main principles of introducing the tool. So tool will provide benefit to organization when it meets the organization's needs. So that's the very first principle that you need to consider before going ahead with the evaluation and introducing any tool into the organization. So what that means is, suppose you require the requirement of your organization, the test management or the automation requirement of your organization are ABC, and the tool doesn't provide those, the tool doesn't meet those requirements ABC, then it's of no use unless and until the requirements that your organization has for any tool, and the tool is not the tool is not providing that feature, or it's not meeting the requirement, it's of no use for the organization. So tool is of benefit only if it meets the organization's need. Then tool should help to build strengths and address the organization's weakness. So the other main principle is that tool should help to build strength. Whatever weaknesses are there, our existing weaknesses are there in the organization, tools should be able to overcome those weaknesses and provide strengths accordingly. So suppose right now there is no automation done for regression testing in the organization, and it's a product based organization. The product that an organization developed is a web based application which can be easily automated using any web based automation tool like Selenium or QDP. So if an organization wants to have a tool which can automate that task which takes quite a long time to perform regression testing manually, because it's a product based organization, so they are delivering release every 3 to 6 months, and in every 3 to 6 months they need to run the whole regression suite, which takes months to execute. So in that case, it's a good idea to introduce a tool, automation tool, to automate the web-based application that they have. But you need to consider that the tool that you evaluate fulfills the need, fulfills the type of automation you want to achieve. So whatever tool you pick, it should have ability to automate the web-based application. So that's the strength that an automation tool will be able to provide to the organization, and it will remediate the weakness of the automation or manual regression that has been done till now. Then if the organization's testing practices are not mature, you should first work on improving testing practices rather than introducing new tool. So if the organization testing practices are not mature, no defined process is there for testing activities, so it's always a good idea to first define the whole testing process, so that it is being a mature process before introducing any tool. Because if the process is not mature, you won't be able to figure out what tool will exactly fit into your process, because you are not sure what process you will follow. So unless and until you have a defined process in the organization, defined testing process, the tool won't be of much help. So it's always a best practice to first define, improve the testing process, and then introduce a tool which will add value to that process, which will enhance, which will build strength to the existing process and address any weaknesses in the process. Then what are the important factors for tool selection? So the first factor is to assess the organization's maturity, that is readiness to change. So this is a very important factor, because if the test process or any process for which you are introducing a tool in the organization is not mature enough, organization is not ready for change, then selecting a tool and introducing a tool won't make any difference. It will just introduce a confusion state in the organization. So the first step is to make sure that organization is ready to change, ready for a change. The processes are well defined, and now you can introduce a tool to address the weaknesses in that processes. Then the other important factor is to identify the areas where introduction of tool support will be helpful. So for example, as we discussed, for the regression testing, which was done manually till now, if the process is already defined and we have to do regression testing every month or two, then it's always a good idea to introduce an automation tool for the web-based application, for which regression testing needs to be done very frequently. So that's one area where you can introduce an automation tool. And similarly, if there is Excel sheets are being used to manage the test cases and defects, if you have a defined process, then you can introduce a test management tool, a defect management tool in that process, and see how those tools will fit and provide strength for defect management and test management. Then the third factor is to do proper evaluation of tool against clearly defined tool requirements. Okay. Proper evaluation is very important thing before you introduce any tool in the organization, because proper evaluation makes sure that whatever needs you have for whatever requirements you have for the tool in the organization are being fulfilled by that tool. So once you evaluate the tool, taking in considering the current project requirements, if the tool fulfills those requirements, then it's fit for use, otherwise it's not. And the other key factor is that you need to evaluate as many tools as you can available in the market and choose the best fit candidate for your organization. Then the fourth factor is to do a proof of concept for some existing project to see if the tool works as desired and meets the defined objectives. So doing a proof of concept is also a very important thing. So how you can do a proof of concept is, suppose you have a small project, an existing project, you can introduce the evaluation tool into that project and see for some phases of that project, you can see how that tool fulfills the needs of the project. Okay, so if that tool fulfills the needs of that existing project and you are happy with it, you can then roll it out for larger audience of your organization. Then you need to also evaluate how the training, support and reputation of organization is which is providing the tool. That's also very important, because it's not like once you deploy the tool and will work perfectly fine years and years without any maintenance and defect fixes. So there might be failures and defects in the tools that you introduce after it is being deployed. So it is very important to see what is the reputation and what kind of support and service level adherence the organizations provide, which is providing the tool to your organization. So that's another important factor. Then finally, you need to identify the internal implementation. For example, deployment resources, what hardware and software configuration will be required, what training needs will be required. Training will be provided for people who are new to tool. So all these kind of internal implementation detail, hardware, software, deployment resources, any training needs also to be identified and considered for the tool. Then what is pilot project? So pilot project is a way to do proof of concept effectively. So if you're doing a proof of concept, pilot project is a very effective way to do proof of concept. So introducing a tool in pilot project ensures that it is explored properly and meets the project needs. So whenever you introduce a tool in pilot project, that ensures that the tool has been explored properly, since the tool is being used exactly same way in the whole process that is defined by your organization. And if the tool fulfills all the needs and meets the needs of the project, then that tool is the best fit for your organization. The main objective of pilot project should be to use tool in different ways and find out how the tool handles different conditions. So whenever a tool is being introduced in a pilot project, the main objective at that point in pilot project should be to use the tool in many different ways, whatever possible ways you can think of to use a tool, in order to make sure that the tool is able to handle different kind of situations and conditions. Then pilot project should not be a business critical or not very large project. So pilot project should be a very kind of small project and should not be a business critical project, because if you introduce a tool for a business critical project and the tool doesn't fit properly and doesn't work properly, then it will be a complete mess and a loss in the business critical project. So before introducing a tool, a pilot project should be chosen, a small project which can be used as a pilot project to evaluate the tool that you are trying to roll out in the organization for a larger audience. Then objectives of pilot project for new tools are: learn how to use tool in more detail. So the main objectives of pilot project are, so once the tool is being introduced in a project, people in the pilot project start using the tool. So as soon as they start using the tool, they learn more and more about the tool in detail. Then they evaluate how the tool fits in their existing process. So since the process is already defined, and when the tool is introduced in the pilot project, so people working the project evaluate how the tool is being fit in their existing process. Then other objective is to evaluate how to use the tool to streamline existing process. So in case there are some loopholes or there are some gaps in the existing process, then they also evaluate how that tool can streamline the existing process. So suppose right now there is no tool, and for review process, every review has to be done through emails. So you can evaluate how a test management tool introduced in the new process, in an existing process, does it provide review functionality and configuration management functionality of the testware or the test documents or development documents. So yeah, so that way you can evaluate and see if it is providing any benefit for the gaps in the existing process. Then determine what needs to change with tool implementation. Then the other important thing is to determine what changes are required when the tool is being implemented in a project. And finally, what is the return on investment on tool if it is implemented on larger scale? So that's the very important factor to consider, because if the tool is not providing any benefit, any return on investment, then it is of no use. If you just buy a tool and it's just lying installed on a system and is not being used, not adding any value to the existing process, it's of no use unless and until it is used properly across the organization. Then what are the success factors? Success is not guaranteed by just implementing the test tool in an organization. So success factors of implementing a tool. So if you implement any tool in an organization, that doesn't guarantee that it will be successful by just implementing a tool in the organization. Some factors contributing to success are incremental rollout of tool to the rest of organization. So never roll out the tool in larger organization without doing a proper evaluation, or without doing evaluation in pilot project and making sure that it fits the organization's need. So once you have done the proof of concept in pilot project and you have finalized that this tool is best fit candidate for the process that you have in your organization, after that you should do an incremental rollout in different projects. So after pilot project, you should choose some other smaller project where you should roll out that tool and see how the performance is. What is the return on investment on those projects, and what benefits have been provided by that tool in different projects. Then eventually you can roll it out to some major projects, and then so the rollout has to be always incremental in the organization. Then the second is to adapt to the process and continuous improvement of process after tool is launched. So once the tool is launched, everybody has to adapt to the process, the new process or the modified process after launching the tool. And then you need to always work, the team has always to work on continuous improvement of the process after the tool has launched. Then providing adequate training to new users. So in case a tool has been launched and it's an automation tool and the team doesn't know how to do scripting, how to write automation scripts, or how to understand the automation framework, so that tool would be of no use. So team has to be adequately trained on that automation tool before they can actually start using it and automating the regression test suites to make benefit of automating regression testing. Then defining and communicating usage guidelines based on learning from pilot projects. So once the pilot project is launched, the objective of pilot project is also to prepare the guidelines and how to use guides for that tool, and these guides have to be circulated and communicated to different projects, and people in other project need to be provide training and given information on usage guides of the tool. Then finally, the monitor the use of tool and benefits achieved by tool usage. So that's also a very important factor to consider, because unless until you monitor what benefit the tool has provided and how it is being used in the organization. You need to keep track if whether it is used in the different projects and it's actually providing the benefits, where the tool is lacking, so that you can overcome those issues in future. So to conclude, in this session we learned about main principles of introducing the tool. Then we learn about goals of pilot project or proof of concept for tool evaluations. So importance of pilot project and what are the main things to consider when you are doing proof of concept in the pilot project. And then finally, what are the success factors for testing tool. Thank you.